Hi, this is Jason Latimer. I'm a CRM development consultant and Microsoft Dynamics CRM MVP with LedgeView Partners. We're a group of customer relationship management professionals who specialize in designing custom CRM solutions to improve business processes and maximize your company's growth potential. Today I'm going to talk to you about the technical administrator's role in the CRM 2013 upgrade. The goal here is to provide some helpful information that you can use when planning the upgrade to CRM 2013 in your organization. A couple things I'll be talking about today. I'll be going over the upgrade process, specific instances for online versus on-premise. We'll be reviewing the items losing support, specific upgrade considerations, things that are changing with forms and functionality in the system, dealing with the new Autosave functionality, things you can do when you're upgrading any code to code for the future and keep your stuff supportable, the new ServerSide Synchronization, and then go over some resources you can use. So for on-premise customers, you're in control of the upgrade. So what does that mean? The server bits are now available, so you're in control of when you want to upgrade. You're on your own schedule. You're not like the online customers where you don't need to wait for Microsoft to upgrade you. So you can plan accordingly. You obviously have to take into consideration things like the database table restructure that we'll be talking about later, any other applications you have touching it. Online customers have already begun happening. They'll be going through the middle of February 2014. You can determine your primary and secondary upgrade dates by clicking on the Learn More button you'll see at the top of your screen when your upgrade is scheduled. If you go to those dates and it doesn't work for you, if it's not enough time to get ready, make sure you go and use the Learn More button and go in and reschedule your date to a later time. Fridays and Saturdays won't be available for upgrades. And one thing to keep in mind, your upgrade date is not necessarily guaranteed for your primary date. Microsoft does reserve the right to fall back to the secondary date if something were to happen or they run out of time upgrading customers for that day. So I'm going to go over the things losing support, kind of starting from the infrastructure side of things. Probably the biggest concern for a lot of people is going to be the lack of support for Windows XP. And that's Windows XP when you're using either the web client for CRM 2013 or the Outlook client. And really that comes back down to the lack of support for Internet Explorer 7. Any online customers technically already lost Internet Explorer 7 support if they happen to apply the December 2012 service update. The other probably major thing is Office 2003 support for those using the Outlook client. So you'll need to get up to at least Office 2007. Kind of on the server side of things, Exchange 2003 and 2007 items are losing some support. And then if your domain is on a Windows 2000 Active Directory Forest or domain level, you'll need to get that increased as well. From a development perspective, there's a number of changes. All the CRM 4.0 programming model support is now officially gone in CRM 2013. It was listed as, a lot of things were listed as deprecated in 2011, but now that support is completely removed. So if you see any JavaScript references, that's CRM form dot something, or in your JavaScript or plugin code, or you're looking at the 2007 endpoint, as the examples show, those will need to be upgraded. On-premise customers, if you have any other applications, any like .NET applications or anything running in the ISV folder on your server, you'll have to come up with a different solution for how you're going to host that application, whether or not be HTML or JavaScript or Silverlight web resource inside a CRM or an external site or something else. To help find some of these problems, Microsoft provides a couple of tools you can run. The first of which is the custom code validation tool at the URL you see. And what that'll do is you can install that as a solution in your CRM, and it'll check through your JavaScript code and it'll look for these references to old CRM 4.0 code. It's not 100% accurate. It does come up with some false positives, but it should give you a pretty good idea of the things that may need to be fixed. The other tool they provide specifically for on-premise customers is the legacy feature check tool at the URL you see there. And what that'll do is it installs you run that off the server itself, and basically it kind of does some of the same things the custom code validation tool does, but it also look at plugin code, custom workflow activities. It'll scan through IIS logs and look for calls to these older endpoints, things like that, and give you an idea, a more in-depth idea of what things might need to be fixed. Basically, mainstream support. We just ended support earlier this year for CRM 4. 2011 is going to be officially supported for another couple of years yet, until July 12, 2016, so we have a little ways to go yet. And you can see the projected support dates for CRM 2013. So it's something to keep in mind that you have some time to upgrade to 2013, but it's not going to be supported forever. So specific upgrade considerations for on-premise customers. If you're on CRM 2011 currently, that pretty much implies you're on 64-bit versions of Windows and SQL Server already. So technically, you can do an in-place upgrade, but really that's not the recommended approach. It's really better to install a fresh environment, be it on a new physical server or VM, what have you, and move the database over into the new environment, which is really, this is a good time to take advantage of the support for Windows Server 2012 and SQL Server 2012. The biggest probably change in the upgrade is that there's a database table merge, and what that means is right now in previous versions, 2011 and previous versions of CRM, for a particular record type there was always two tables. There's a base table and an extension-based table. And this was because of some limitations in earlier versions of SQL Server. But now as we get into SQL Server 2008 and 2012, that limitation is no longer in place. So what they've decided to do is actually merge those two tables into a single table. So you'll end up with just a base table at the end. The extension base will be gone. So what that really means is during the upgrade process, you're going to need 3 times your database size and 4 times your log file size and available disk space for this temporary process to swap data around and get it merged together. This can be deferred if you don't want to take quite so long of an outage during the upgrade, because if you have a large database, that shuffling around of data could take a long time. So you can use an optional install from the upgrade from the command line and turn that merge off, and then do it later on a per entity basis. The one thing with that is all indications right now are pointing to that you'll need to complete all the table merges before you're able to install Update Rollup 1. Those using the Outlook client, it can be upgraded in place from the 2011 version so long as you're running Update Rollup 12 or above. And you can also use it to connect to CRM 2013 if you're on Update 12 or above. But realistically, it wouldn't hurt to completely uninstall and reinstall the application from scratch. If you do have legacy code like old JavaScript or plugin code that's using the old endpoints, there is during the prerequisite check, there is something that goes through and scans your code, and it will fail on the prerequisite check and not allow you to upgrade until those issues have been resolved in some way. And of course, your upgrade is one way. There is no going back short of restoring servers and things of that nature. Online customers. It works a little bit different with custom code problems. Your upgrades will proceed no matter what. So as long as they have time in that day to complete your upgrade, it's going to be pushed through regardless if you have a plan in place or not to deal with any legacy code. So if you see your upgrade dates coming up and you don't have a plan in place, or your partner doesn't have a plan in place to get your issues resolved, you should make sure you push it back as far as you can so you give yourself adequate time. So things for both online and on-premise customers. Don't forget to look at any integrations you might have with other systems. So if you have a custom application that might be touching CRM data, maybe you have reports that weren't written in the proper manner using filtered views, or you have like a different data store for reporting data, that table merges might have an impact there. if you have any like data load applications, like Scribe, things like that, make sure those things are covered in the upgrade planning. If you happen to have any ISV solutions, Click Dimensions, ADX Studio, things of that nature, make sure you have the latest CRM 2013 compatible version of the solution. If you have to be working with a SharePoint integration, there is an updated list component for CRM 2013, so you'll need to make sure you have that ready to go. And then also don't underestimate the importance of training. CRM 2013, the navigation and layout is quite a bit different than previous versions, so it wouldn't hurt to make sure people know how to navigate around the system and know how to do their job after the upgrade. So some of the form and functionality changes that are coming with CRM 2013. From visually, the navigation on the left-hand side is gone. The form assistant that might have been on a few forms is gone. And getting started pane across the top of views is gone. And really, with all that extra space that's available, most of the forms now, instead of kind of the two-column layout that you really saw prevalent in earlier versions, really becomes a three-column layout to take advantage of that extra space going from left to right. So that in itself isn't a breaking change or anything, but something you want to consider that after your upgrade you may want to take a little time and relay out your forms to make better use of the space so people don't have to scroll up and down quite so much. There are some changes with duplicate detection in CRM 2013. It's gone from the client side, so what does this all really mean? Is duplicate detection is still in place. Any duplicate detection rules you created will get upgraded just fine. If you happen to have duplicate detection jobs that you're running on a scheduled basis, those will still work and those will be fine. But really, the duplicate detection has been removed for when you're creating or updating a record. Why is this? CRM 2013 introduces a new Autosave feature, which basically every 30 seconds will perform a save of the form. So they realize that maybe having that duplicate detection check going off every 30 seconds isn't going to be the best user experience. So they took it away from the client side. So if that's something critical to your organization, there's a free solution I actually developed I put on Codeplex. You can get it from the URL listed on your screen, and it basically replaces the 2011 version, and it'll give you the option to pop up a duplicate detection window that shows any potential duplicates. So the new autosave is a change in how people are going to be working with their form data. So really what that means is when autosave is turned on, users won't need to go in and actually hit the save button to make sure their data is committed to the database. So what does this really mean? There's no undo. So if a user types in some data, that essentially is committed once they tab out of the field and 30 seconds fires off, that data gets saved back. So how do you deal with this? Initially, that's going to be a big change to the way a lot of people work with the forms and the form data. So it might help to turn on auditing, at least on your key record types. It may be only temporarily until people get used to it. But that way, with auditing enabled, you can always kind of go back and have a trail of what a previous value might have been. If you're not interested in using autosave and you want to get that save button back on the top of the form, you can turn it off globally from the system settings. But one thing to keep in mind is if you happen to be navigating away from a record, or if you have a record opened in a pop-out window, if you close that window or navigate off that record in any way, an autosave still will fire. So gone are the days of typing in data in a field maybe to test something and then Xing out of the window and not having it save on you, because it's pretty much going to save as soon after you type it in. From a developer perspective, there's some things to take into account. If you have plugins that are running when the record is saved, make sure you're using filters on your plugins so that they're only firing when certain fields get updated, not when any field on the form gets updated. If you happen to have a plugin that fires some sort of long-running synchronous process, it may tie up the user interface, so you'll want to see if you can't change that to somehow an asynchronous process so it runs in the background, or see if there's some other way to handle your particular scenario. if you're using JavaScript, again, if you're running code on the onSave event of the form, there is a way to check the save mode and see if the save event is caused by an autosave. So that may dictate how you handle certain logic. You might want to avoid using alerts during the onSave event because those could be popping up on the user and make the user experience fairly unpleasant. So what you might consider using is the new form notifications that appear at the top of the screen. It's a little bit of a less obtrusive way to give the user some information. And then if you happen to be doing any dynamic data retrievals or anything else, if possible, try to call them asynchronously so they kind of run in the background as opposed to synchronously where they might end up tying the user interface up a little bit while it's processing some data. So you might have some code changes to make, so this would be a perfect time to make sure you're doing things in a way that you can kind of maintain the best level of possible support going forward. So if possible, try to reduce the amount of code you even need to write by using some of the new features that are included in CRM 2013. You can use the new business rules if you're doing simple things like hiding or showing a field or making a field read-only or not. That can replace a lot of code, and then that's just less you have to worry about supporting going forward. The new real-time workflows, if you need to update some data in real time after like a record is saved, is a perfect example again of how you can avoid writing JavaScript. The new quick view forms are great for displaying data from a related record on a form. Something me as a developer I find myself doing a lot is pulling data into a record using JavaScript, which is inherently problematic because that data is only accurate for that specific point in time that we pulled it in. So if you use a quick view form, that does is always provides a snapshot into the related record, and that data is always up to date. And then again, if you have any code you're updating that was doing something in an unsupported manner, unsupported or undocumented manner, if you can find a way to do it in a supported manner, that's always going to be to your benefit. One of the new features also is server-side synchronization, and what this basically does is it allows CRM to send and receive email without the need for an external application. As it stands right now, the main CRM application itself can't send or receive email, so you rely on something like the email router, or you rely on the CRM Outlook client to handle that for you. Server-side synchronization basically builds a lot of that functionality into the main CRM application itself. Currently, Server-side sync is only available for on-premise customers, so if you're connecting an on-premise CRM installation to an on-premise Exchange installation, or like a POP email service like Gmail, Outlook.com, Yahoo, things like that. Hopefully should be coming for online customers in the very near future. So if you have CRM online and you have Exchange online with Office 365, you'll be able to connect up to that and not have to worry about having an email router sitting on a different server somewhere, or relying on users to have their Outlook open and running if you want like a workflow to send an email, things like that. Potentially there might be coming support for hybrid scenarios where being an on-premise deployment of CRM online, or on-premise deployment of CRM to Exchange online, or vice versa. Along with the new server-side synchronization are another new feature called alerts. And basically this does is right now they surfaced these alerts to give you certain system level information that might not be readily available to users. The specific example they're using to start out with is if you have an email account, if you're using server-side sync tied to like a POP email account, that account will need some sort of credentials in order to connect up to the service and send and receive email. So basically this alert functionality might give you an indication if your password expired, or you can also, like in this particular screenshot, we run a test on our mailbox to make sure it can connect up. So it'll do some logging for you and give you an easy way to access some of this information without necessarily having to drill into like a special log file somewhere on the server. Eventually, Microsoft might surface other details that administrators might be interested in, but right now it's just tied to things surrounding server-side sync. So just a few resources you can take a look at if you're interested in more information. The first of which is the Microsoft Dynamics CRM Customer Center. It's basically the hub of all Microsoft CRM documentation. You can get to things like the SDK, training videos, things like that. Another great site is the Microsoft Dynamics Community, not just for CRM users, for all the Dynamics products, the ERP products and so on. There's lots of forums, blogs, things like that, forums you can go out and ask questions, and Microsoft people and MVPs and community members will try to answer them for you. Some blogs you can take a look at: the LedgeView Partners blog, my personal blog is listed here. You can check out the Microsoft Dynamics CRM Online Services blog, which is particularly important for online customers. This gives indications of any potential service outages that might be occurring at the time. And then you can also check out the Microsoft Dynamics CRM team blog, and this gives you a little bit more technical information, but sometimes goes over articles on new functionality, things like that. You can check out, if you're on Yammer, the LedgeView Partners CRM 2013 Yammer site. If you're on Twitter, you can check out LedgeView Partners there, myself, and also follow Microsoft Dynamics CRM. And if you're not a member of the CRM UG, you should check that out. There's chapters all over the world. It's a great place for users to get together and talk about real-world experiences. A lot of times presentations by CRM experts. All right, and this concludes our presentation for today. If